What are you doing?
Hmm?
What are you doing?
Nothing. Me? Just hanging around.
Welcome to episode 3 of Half-Life 2 No Jump. So when we last left off, we had just overcome a ledge with the help of a barrel. I make my way to this small alleyway with a broken ladder. Here I was able to use a traffic cone to bounce myself onto the barrel, and again to put myself atop the ledge. After a brief walk, I use the carton to cross a small gap and I keep hustling forward. This is the part in the game where I obtain the Mud Skipper, a boat that can both ride on water and regular terrain. With the Mud Skipper, I get to a gap I have to cross. This puzzle was fairly basic and no jumping was required. After a refreshing time out on the open sewers, I get to a compound. A door is blocking me from progressing, so I infiltrate. Here I get a new weapon type, the hand grenade. I continue my infiltration and smash the doors of oppression open. Back to the sewers. I make a picture-perfect landing on this dock, and then I masterfully pick open the lock. I politely close the door behind me and pick up a magnum before being rudely interrupted. From here, my next jump puzzle wasn't too far away, and it was simply sprinting atop these cargo containers.
Surprise, motherfucker!
I unpark my vehicle and I'm back on the water. I run into a rather simple puzzle to create a ramp for my mud skipper. To my fortune, some construction workers decided to do their laundry on the scaffolding, so I used this washer as a counterweight for my ramp. Then I meet some Americans who decided there wasn't enough gun on my boat, and they retrofit it with a machine gun. Nice. I get to a pipe that's well above me. Now normally, the way to get into this pipe would be to use the mud skipper to ramp into it, but that's too easy. Why should I do that when I could make things hard on myself? After experimenting a bit, I discovered that hand grenades really launch the boat. My plan is to throw a grenade under the boat, get into the boat, and then fly into the pipe. This kind of worked, but instead of landing on the pipe where I intended, I landed on some textureless ground above it. No problem, I'll just shimmy myself into the pipe and keep it pushing. I'm now in a wide open area, and a friendly helicopter stops by to say hello.
Double sun power!
After fighting tooth and nail with skillful precision, the helicopter takes me out. I come back and I ask the heli driver this question. Why did the tomato turn red? Because he saw the salad dressing. After that terrible joke took down the helicopter, I get to another door blocking my way. I don't intend to do this the intended way, so I hop over with a grenade. I do retain some control over the boat when I'm in the air, so I'm able to cross over the gap. There's a puzzle here, but I don't really care about it, because as you probably guessed by this point, I'm going to skip it. Man, I love this boat. By the way, I have not looked up anything to figure out any techniques shown in this video, as that would violate one of the rules I set in the first video. Every technique you see here has been the result of my own experimentation, and I intend to keep it that way. Anyway, I'm finally past the water stage and ready to get into the next part of the game. Unfortunately, I was extremely sad to leave the boat behind. I tried bringing it with me, but the feds wouldn't let me, citing something about not wanting a foreign whip on American soil. I meet with Alex in the lab, and she gives me one of the most important tools for the rest of this run, the gravity gun. Alex asked me to get on top of this hut, so I build a ramp and sprint across. Unfortunately, the feds received word that I tried to smuggle in a car, and they raid the lab. I'm forced to part ways with Alex, and I find myself in the very creepy town of Ravenholm. I gotta say, using these saws to slice the zombies in half is very satisfying. I meet a man named Grigori.
You're not an intellectual. You're a fake and a fraud.
After speaking with him for a bit, I get to an electrified fence. Now, normally, the way to get on top of this ledge is to go upstairs in a building and pull a lever across the way to unelectrify the fence. But I decided this was boring, so let's find a different way. At first, I tried experimenting with explosive barrels to shoot myself onto the ledge, but this wasn't going very well. I grabbed two more objects, a large wardrobe and a small drawer. I discovered that if I were to pulse a large object like the wardrobe with the gravity gun while I was on top of it, I could launch myself a fair bit. I couldn't help but get excited at this discovery, as this was exactly what I needed to get to the ledge. After a little bit of trial and error, I managed to use the object top to get atop the ledge. My next obstacle was just around the corner. I needed to get into this window. At first, I tried using a barrel to get through, but this wasn't working out for me. Then I tried using a grenade, but that wasn't working either. So I surveyed my surroundings further, and I wondered why I was even trying to get into this window when I could just object top my way above this wall, completely negating the need to get into the window. I jump down and I go back to where I left the wardrobe. So I tried to get across, and I tried again, and again. It just seemed like there was some sort of invisible wall blocking me from going across that gap, so I had to figure out another way. I reload back to when I got past the electric fence. I tried to take the wardrobe up top with me, but it was too far away to get with the gravity gun. But the drawer was a different story. I was able to grab it rather easily, and it was the perfect object to help me get into the window. I get inside the house to discover that it was a one-way ticket down with no way back up. I clear it out and jump down. At this part of the game, there are some cars I can bring down with a lever. After some surveying of the area, I realized I needed to get on top of the car and make my way across some scaffolding. But I had a problem. In order to clear this area, I needed two separate jumps. One to get on top of the car and another to clear a gap in the scaffolding. And there were no usable objects that I could see nearby. At first, I tried using a grenade, which succeeded in giving me a boost to get on top of the car. However, it left my HP too low for a second grenade, meaning there was no way to clear the second gap on the scaffold. I thought about how I could clear this obstacle without reloading to an earlier point, and then I remembered the drawer I used to get into this area in the first place. But could I even obtain it? I ran back to investigate, and my eyes lit up when I saw a gap in the house directly under the window that I used to get it. So I used my gravity gun to grab the drawer. Now instead of relying on a grenade to push me on top of the car, I can just use the drawer as a platform, and it worked beautifully. Man, the enemies here are really creepy. Grigori gives me a shotgun, and this thing's almost as satisfying to use as the Magnum. Now I have to push a button, making sure to wait for the world's slowest elevator so I don't break my legs. There's a small gap here, but I make it across with a running start. There's a puzzle here where I have to pull a lever so that I can use it to platform across the roofs. I spot some boxes that I have to ramp on top of. Using this propeller to dismantle zombies will never not be satisfying to me, but I can also use it as a ramp. I take it back to the boxes, and it works fairly decently. I wonder what happens if I pulse it with the gravity gun. Honestly, I don't know what I was expecting, but I come back with the propeller. Up the first two boxes, and up the third. I go up a ladder with the propeller just in case I still need it, and what do you know, it turns out I do. Across the way I go, and oh no, I just realized the crane was not in position, because it reset when I killed myself with the propeller. I was much too lazy to backtrack and do all that work again, so I decided to find a different way. Let's see what I came up with. So by blowing up a barrel while moving in the direction I needed to go, it was just enough momentum to shoot me across the gap, and I had just barely enough HP to make it work. I meet up with Grigori, who sends a cart my way so I can get across the fence separating us. After getting in the cart and making it across, I realized I had no way of getting out of this thing without jumping. Let's try using a grenade. Let's try using a grenade. There we go, and with 3 HP left to spare. Grigori decides to show me the way to the next area, but this is going to be my stopping point for the video. As usual, I thank you for watching my video and supporting me.